Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Duduzile Kupega, the Mathematical Literacy Grade 12 lesson for today. So I told you yesterday that at the end of the lesson, you will know cost price, and if we still have time, we will cover selling price. But this is for these 3 days, this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll be covering these three topics. So it will depend on how we go and on the questions from you guys. So please interact. If you have a question, use the Q&A button below there to ask the questions, and then I'll respond to them. Also, on the front page here, there's my email address. So if you have any questions, also after the lesson, you can contact me there. So cost price, let's first work out what is cost price. So cost price is just typical terms, not even textbook definition. When you go buy something at a shop, you buy it at a certain cost. That is what we are referring to when we speak of cost price. So whatever you are, no, my bad. Sorry, that is a very bad example. Cost price is not what I just said. Cost price is what it costs to, when you buy something at a shop, that would be the selling price. But the actual cost price to put that thing there is less than that selling price because the selling price now has a markup. Ne? So cost price is what it costs to make that product or to what they prefer to charge for that particular service. That is before they add the markup, whereby then it would be a selling price. So cost price is what is actually the money that is spent by the company or by the business owner on making that product available before any profits are involved. So forgive me for that first mistake. So total cost price is actually fixed costs plus production costs. So these are all the costs that go into getting a product together or getting a service together. So if you want to bake and let's say you want to sell muffins, your cost price would include the price of all the ingredients that you buy, and then it would also include probably the amount of electricity you use whilst baking, the amount of water you used, those are the costs, all the costs involved in ensuring that the final product is there. That is the cost price. So the formula we use is total cost price, I'm sorry, I moved too quickly there. Total cost price of any good or service includes two groups of expenses. There are fixed costs, which are also known as running costs, and then there are production costs. Fixed costs are those ones that a business has even if it does not make a single item to sell. So fixed costs would be rent. Like now, let's make a typical example, especially right now during the lockdown. A lot of businesses are closed. But even whilst they are closed, they still have the fixed costs which they need to pay. So maybe this business is renting a place in a building somewhere. They are still expected to pay that rent. Examples like that. Those are fixed costs. So whether or not they are operating during this time really doesn't matter. They are required to pay for those fixed costs. So that's what we refer to when we speak of fixed costs. That is usually the typical examples. It would be your rent, and oftentimes it would be probably electricity bills, cell phone bills, etc. And then production costs, these are the expenses that must be paid to make each item or provide each service that a business sells. So example, like back to this example of the businesses that are shut down right now during the lockdown. They are not having any production costs right now. They don't have any production costs because they are not producing anything at the moment. The only thing they're paying for are the fixed costs or the running costs of that business. So for things like bakeries, they're not spending any money on flour or milk or anything because they're not baking any goods right now. So that is the difference. It's perfect right now, especially during this time, so you understand. You'd hear people complaining of how they don't have money and how the economy will suffer. That is because, yes, people may be out of jobs, people may be at home not working and not having an income, but certain costs are fixed and they're still expected to pay them regardless of the circumstances. So that is the right example of fixed and production costs. And then business equipment. Now we need to work this out. Is business equipment a fixed or a production cost? How do you work that out? These typical examples, especially for the lessons this week, we'll try discuss them from a view of a business. So assuming maybe you want to open your own business, or learning from examples of small businesses and other businesses that are in existence. So that's why we'll have typical examples of businesses, of tech shops, it is centered around businesses so that we understand how businesses run, how costs are managed, and how their finances are managed. So now when it comes to business equipment, we need to work out if it is a fixed cost or if it is a production cost. So here's the examples here. If the equipment is needed to make an item or deliver a service, it is a production cost. So if you need that equipment to make an item, so maybe you bake, you need the stove to bake the cakes. So it will count as a production cost. So you probably buy a stove so that you can be able to produce your cakes. So the price the money you bought the stove for will count as a production cost. Or if you're in the sewing business and you design clothes and you make people clothes, then your sewing machine would be a production cost. So the money you spent on buying the machine, or maybe you're paying it in installments, whatever way you are using to pay, it is a production cost because you use that particular equipment to make this product or service that you are offering. And then if it is equipment that is used to run the business, even when there is no production, that is going to be a fixed cost. I'm trying to think of examples for that one. So maybe your laptop. You need your laptop to run the business. You need your laptop to get orders from people. You need your laptop to take all those orders, to drop your financial statements, all of those. This is the equipment you need to run the business, even when there is no production. So that would be your fixed cost. So if you had already bought a laptop for your business and then it was shut down, it was locked down, you'd still have to continue paying for that laptop. Here's an example. This is taken from Via Africa Mathematical Literacy Grade 12 textbook. So it says a hairdressing business employs 4 people and operates from a shop in a small shopping center. The business's monthly expenses include rent, basic wages and commissions, shampoos and other hair products, electricity and water. Every year, the business closes for 2 weeks over the December holiday period. During this period, it must still pay basic wages to its employees, but it does not pay commissions. It must pay rent, but it does not use electricity, water, and hair products. The basic wages and the rent are fixed costs of this business, and the commissions paid to staff, electricity, water, and hair products are production costs of the business. So this is now in a textbook example of what we've just described. It's now trying to break down the production costs and the fixed costs of a business. So this is a hairdressing business, the salon. We know all of them are closed right now. So we'll take the example that they are closed over the December holiday period. And then again, they are closed during the lockdown period. So during this period, the business is not operating. That means no income is being generated for this business. They are not working and they are not getting any income. They are not making any sales. They are not seeing any customers. It is closed, it is shut down, it is locked down. But during this period, December and lockdown, it must still pay basic wages to its employees. So the people are at home and they're not working, but this business is entitled to pay those basic wages because that is a fixed cost. But what does it not pay? It does not pay commissions because commission is is a rate that you get for making a particular sale, right? So right now they did not make any particular sales, so they are not getting that commission. But the wages they are definitely getting. The business still has to pay rent, although it is not using any electricity, water, and hair product, but it is renting that building, so it needs to pay for the building or the space they are occupying. So meaning here rent is a fixed cost, but the electricity, water, and the hair products are production costs, so they won't have to pay for those. So this is what is explained here. And I hope from these examples, especially right now, I think we did this financial math at its perfect time. And even when you go back to school, you'll get to understand this more clearly, considering the conditions we are faced with. So you'll hear people often complaining, especially in the news. If you watch the news and you're engaging with the real world right now, you will understand that people are crying and saying they don't know how they will survive, because the business owners themselves, they have to pay all these fixed costs, even though they're not getting any income. So probably during December holiday, it is much better because they had planned for such circumstances. They planned that every year in December they will close for 2 weeks, so they could plan for such. But now during lockdown, no one had planned for these circumstances. So it means even the business owners themselves don't really have much to go by, because now they still need to pay all these fixed costs, but they're not getting any money coming from them. And it will also be unfair to employees if they're not getting any wages, because they did not choose to sit at home and do nothing. It is a lockdown which is enforced on everyone. So everyone needs to listen to the commands that is given to us. So you understand how this works, fixed costs and production costs. At times it is fair, at times it is unfair, but it is what it is. So back to this, in this hairdressing business, the hair dryers, the wash basins, the combs, the scissors, and so on are used for each client. So now we're breaking down which one exactly is the production cost here. The combs, so you list everything. When you're running a business, you need to list down everything and plan it to the T. So you plan down from the hair products you use down to the very combs you buy. So if you are buying 10 combs this year, you need to know this is the cost that went into buying those combs. So now that those combs get lost, probably you lose 5 of those combs, you are losing money which was supposed to be helping the business. You're costing the business money. If you are working in an office setup and it is calculated that a certain portion of the money is going towards buying paper, and you just print endless papers without thinking, then you are still costing the business so much money, because there was a price to buy those papers. And when we use them, you use it and you don't think and you don't care. So we need to understand that everything has a cost. Literally everything has a cost. From the pen you use whenever you get to that business, to the paper, to the pin or the stapler, it was bought for with money. And if we are careful with the very little things that we use in our businesses, then businesses could save quite a lot of money and they'd be able to make much more profit. But a lot of costs go towards buying things that people use wastefully. So these things, like you see, the head, the scissors, and so on, are used for each client. These items of equipment, so these are equipment, as you can see, they are production costs, even if they are bought only once. So they may be bought only once, but they are production costs because they are used in producing whatever product or service. So the cost of these items must be included in the cost price for each client, so that the business can earn back the money spent on buying the equipment. The office equipment for the business, which is the computers, office furniture, and so on, is a fixed cost period because it is not used up by the work done for each client, and the same equipment is needed whether 10 or 200 clients visit the business in 1 week. So this is how usually businesses would work out how much to charge for their products or services. They'd work out all their costs. That is why it's important again. You need to work out all the costs to the T so that you know what costs the business will be incurring. And then from those costs, you'll be able to work out how much to sell the product or service for so that you ensure you get a certain profit from that. So suppose you decided to sell, you're baking muffins, and the cost of making those muffins is about 500 rands, ne? Example. The cost of making muffins would be 500 rands. And then you decide to sell the muffins for, okay, no, let's go back. Let's not use the muffin example. Let's use let's say lemonade, glasses of lemonade. To make 1 glass of lemonade, it probably costs you 10 rands. And when you decide to sell 1 glass of lemonade for 5 rands, if you are selling below your cost price or your costs, your production costs, then you are running at a loss. It means you will just be stocking up just to sell, and you're never making any profit, and then eventually you'll run out of this money and you won't be able to get any stock, because if your selling price doesn't even begin to cover your cost price, your business can't continue running, because then where will you get the money to continuously buying all the stock? So it means your cost price, if your cost price is 10 rand, your selling price should be anything above 10 rand. You will work that out as a business and decide, also depending on the market rates. So this is an activity found from the Mind the Gap study guide for grade 12s. You have ingredients here. You have 2 slices of bread, about 10 grams of butter, and 20 grams of cheese. 2 slices of bread, 10 grams of butter, and 20 grams of cheese. This is the production of a cheese sandwich. So that's your business. It's a production of cheese sandwiches. So it means you're selling cheese sandwiches here. And each cheese sandwich is made up of 2 slices of bread. It is made up of about 10 grams of butter and about 20 grams of cheese. Question 1. If there are 20 slices of bread in 1 loaf and a loaf costs 8.95 rands, how much will 2 slices cost? How many do you have here? We have 20 slices of bread. How many slices do you need to make your sandwich? You need 2 slices. So it's going to be it's actually 2 divided by 20. 2 divided by 20 multiplied by 8.95 rands, it would be 0.90 rands, the cost of the 2 slices. So you buy the loaf for 8.95 rands, but it means to make 1 sandwich, it actually costs, to make only the 2 slices that go into this 1 sandwich, it costs you 0.90 rands. So that's what they mean. Another example, you need to work it down to the very unit. If you are selling sandwiches, you need to work out the cost of how much 1 sandwich actually costs. So you need to do all of those calculations. If you're selling muffins, you need to work down the cost to how much 1 muffin actually costs. So you need to work out the bulk prices as well as working down to the very unit of 1, so that you know if you had only sold 5 sandwiches that day, how much cost went into that and how much profit are you likely to make. And then question 2, if 1 pack of butter that costs 28.95 rands has a mass of 450 grams, how much will 10 grams of butter cost? So this is a pack of butter. It costs 28.95 rands and it has a mass of 450. How much will this 10 grams butter cost? This 10 grams of butter is the butter that goes towards making your sandwich. So it's 10 divided by 450 multiplied by 28.95 rands, which is the cost of the 450 grams of butter. It means the butter that goes into one sandwich is 0 rand 64 cents. Then 3, we are now working out the cost of the cheese because we have 3 ingredients, right? We have the slices of bread, we have the butter, and we have the cheese. That is why we are breaking down into those 3. Number 3 now is if you're buying 300 grams of cheese and it costs 32 rands 95. How much will 20 grams cheese cost? So you say that 20 grams divided by 300 grams multiplied by 32 rands 95. It is equal to 2 rands 20. So to make one sandwich, a total of one cheese sandwich, it is the 0 rands 90 cents for the 2 cents, 0 rands 64 cents for the butter, the 10 grams of butter, and it is 2 rands 20 for the cheese. So it means one sandwich actually costs you 3 rands 74 cents. That is how much one sandwich would cost you. So again, this is how we are working out what? The production cost of a cheese sandwich. Because a cheese sandwich, you really just needed these main ingredients. For other businesses, depending on the type of business, you might have more complex things to add towards the production cost, because it won't be as simple as this cheese making. Because cheese making, you don't really need anything much. You can make it with your hands and maybe your knife, which would count as a fixed cost, right? So yeah. And then the second one is now, remember the formula of total costs. It is the production cost plus the fixed cost. Ne? So right now we have worked out how to calculate work out the production cost of cheese sandwich. So this is how you can work out production cost. Now here I'm showing you how to include equipment costs in the production of a single item. So this is another example. Right now, it's when you have quite complex things going into making a product. So you need probably certain equipment. So this is an example of when you have a knitting machine and you're sewing clothes for people. Step 1, you need to decide how much time it should take to earn back the cost of the production equipment. So here we're working on equipment. For example, now you buy a new knitting machine for 3,400 rands, and you may want to earn back the cost of the machine within 1 year. So to work out how to include or incorporate the equipment costs in the production costs, this is how you do it. The equipment cost is not as typical as the cheese and the sandwiches that you'd buy, right? This is equipment you have already in your house, but you need it for the production of the product. That is why we are covering this part. So you will need to decide how much time it should take to earn back that cost of the production equipment. So each business is different. So different businesses will set different time frames for when they want to earn back the money it cost them for that particular equipment. So this example here is based on you have bought a knitting machine which cost you 3,400 rands, and now you want to earn back the cost of that machine within 1 year. So you want to get back the 3,400 rands you spent on the knitting machine within 1 year. So in the beginning, you buy it with probably your own money, but you need to earn it back somehow in the business by 1 year. Step 2, calculate or estimate how many items you will sell during this time. So you estimate here that typically you do your research obviously before you get into any business. You don't just jump into business. You do your research and you understand the markets and you understand how everything works. Then you are able to make educated guesses, or you're able to make proper planning. You're able to do that because you've got prior historical data either from other businesses or how you plan on doing your business realistically. So you'll estimate probably that you want to sell 180 sweaters in 1 year. So you bought the machine for what? 3,400 rands, and you think you will sell about 180 sweaters in that 1 year. Step 3, you need to now divide the cost of the equipment by the number of items you will sell, and then add the answer to your production cost calculation for each item. So the 3,400 rands cost for the machine, divide by the number of items you think you'll be able to sell for the year. Your answer is 18 rands 89. So each time you sell one sweater, in the production costs there, you need to add this 18 rand 89 to be part of your production costs. So this, along with other probably the material you need to make the sweater, everything else you need to make the sweater, you add them together, including this 18 rand 89. At the end of it, when you sell it and you've added your markup, you know that by the end of the year, you have made back all the money you had spent towards this machine. So this is how you do it all the time. If it's the salon, they'll probably include the costs of the hair dryers that they use to buy so that they run the business, or the machines they use to cut the hair, to shave the hair. All of those costs, you need to work them out to the T. Once again, work them out to a unit so that that informs the cost. Now this person has worked out that in each sweater would probably have a production cost of 18 rand 89 just for the equipment. They add these to the others, so those ones will inform how much they should sell the sweaters for. That's why you'll hear people other times they're selling clothes that are very expensive. It's probably because the equipment they use to make those clothes and the materials they use to make those clothes are expensive. So they need to make back the money that they lost, or the costs that they lost in the production of those items. So this again is teaching you how to be able to manage. This is helping you learn more how to manage money. And should you want to start your own business, then you are able to manage the costs and the finances of your business. It is advisable, especially grade 12s. You're probably not sure what you want to do next year, or you sure? Life, you never know really where life will land you. You may plan and plan and plan, and it's very good. Make your plans and make sure you follow them through. But just know you always have a backup plan somehow. So should you one day maybe study whatever you want to study, you still need to be able to manage your finances. Ne? So this is very helpful because it's a step-by-step guide into the real world. You are able to live and exist in the real world from the lessons you are learning in the classroom. So this is not just mathematics and you write your exam and then you've forgotten about it and you're done with it. You're not done with it. This is what you will encounter in the real world. This is what is existing. These are the conditions people are subjected to right now. So as you learn this, you'll be able to better engage with the people around you and understand their conditions and understand why certain businesses are successful and why others are not. Yeah. And yep, the next one, we are now at how to include fixed costs in the total cost price of a single item. So the past slides we were working out the production costs. So we learned how to work out your production costs using the typical ingredients you'd use for your product. And then we learned how to include the equipment costs to the production costs. These equipment that you need for the production, those are the ones. So we've covered production costs in the formula for fixed costs. No, in the formula for total costs. And then now the focus is on what? Is on the fixed cost, the other part of the formula. Remember, total cost is equal to production cost plus fixed cost. So we've covered the production cost. Now we are discussing fixed costs. So how to add those fixed costs, how to include them. Step 1, you calculate the total fixed costs for a period of time using the business budget for the year. So of course, once again, it brings us back to the planning. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. Those are the 5 P's. They work everywhere, in business, in school, anywhere. And you need to always know that if you prepared and planned your things properly, then you will avoid disappointments and poor performance. Right now, if you're spending your time and you're not studying, come exam time, you might regret all the time you spent not doing anything, you know, such examples. So always prepare, always plan. So to work out this fixed cost here, you need to you use the business budget, where you know you're calculating the total fixed cost for a period of time using the business budget. The business budget, you need to have drawn it up already for the year because you are planning your business for the year. Step 2, you calculate or estimate the total number of items or services to be sold during this year. It's quite similar to the one we just did of including equipment cost to production cost. So it is very similar. It's almost the same steps. Step 2 is when now you are calculating or estimating the total number of items or services to be sold during the year. You base your calculation here on past sales income for the business and on projected income in your business for the coming year. So if it's a business that has been running, you can just look at your past sales income. You will be able to work out how many items you're likely to sell during this year. But if you do not have an already existing business and it is a brand new business, then you look at how other businesses or how much other businesses So you'd look at businesses that are very similar to the business you want to open. So it would be businesses in areas similar to where yours would be located. Businesses targeting typically the same people you are targeting. You know, it needs to be very similar to the one that you are running to be able to do your evaluations and to gather correct information. So you can't say you want to run a clothing store in your back room and then you want to compare to the big retail shops. It won't work. You won't get, it's not a fair comparison to begin with, because the conditions you both are subjected to are different. The target market is different, the location is different, the reach is different. So you need to always compare with those ones that are very similar to yours. This applies to when it's a brand new business and you're still starting it from fresh. But if it's running, then you have data already in your records and in your books. So financial records are very important. So whenever you run a business, you need to have detailed documentation of your running costs, your fixed costs, your profits, everything. These also help when you want to apply for funding and you want to apply for grants. You know, they are very important. Without those, your business is unlikely to succeed. Unfortunately, that's just unfortunate, because in this day and age we work with formalization. So if it's not formalized, chances of it succeeding are slim. You can look again at this example happening right now, where a lot of businesses, essential services are the only ones operating during this time, né? But there are a lot of essential businesses that are closed. Why? Because to be able to operate during this lockdown, you need to have a permit, meaning you need to apply for it formally. So, and a lot of informal businesses do not apply for such things. They probably don't even have the documentation for their businesses. A lot of these informal businesses can't even get access to the grants that are available for small businesses because they are not formalized and they don't have the records. You know, it's such unfortunate when you are not formalized. So to ensure success, make sure you are formalized, make sure you're registered, make sure you keep all the records, so that even when you want to get investors for the business, you're able to show them the track record of your business and it helps run your business. So step 3 here, you divide the total of the fixed costs by the number of items you expect to sell. To calculate the portion of fixed costs, you must include the cost price of each item, exactly like we did with the equipment cost. Actually, exactly. So now you follow those steps. Now we are calculating the total cost price. Now you know how to incorporate the production cost, and you also know how to incorporate the fixed costs. Now the next step is calculating the total cost price. This is an example of a bakery. The budget of a big bakery includes 110,000 rands in fixed costs for the year. That is salaries, rent, computers, and so on. So about 110,000 rands goes solely towards fixed costs. Then the production cost of each loaf of bread is 2 rand 45 cents. The bakery estimates that it will sell 52,000 loaves of bread in the coming year. How do you work this out now? You take the 110,000 rands of fixed costs divided by the 52,000 of loaves the business estimates they will sell in the year. It is equals to 2 rand 12 cents. So 2 rand 12 cents in fixed costs must be added to the production cost of each loaf. So those fixed costs are what? 2 rand 12 cents. It's worked out from the yearly fixed costs of the business and yearly estimation of sales for the business. So it's 110,000 divided by 52,000 is equals to 2 rand 12 cents. So you take that 2 rand 12 cents and you add it towards the total cost price. So it's the 2 rand 12 cents towards the total cost price plus the production cost of bread, which is 2 rand 45 cents, equals to 4 rand 57. So the total cost price of each loaf would be 4 rand 57. So each time they sell you one loaf, it actually costs them 4 rand 57. So by you buying just that one loaf of bread, you are contributing towards paying their salaries, you are contributing towards paying their rent, you are contributing towards paying their computers, and you're contributing towards paying the production cost of that bread. So this 457 is covering all of those costs for the year. By the time the year ends, they would have made back all their 110,000 rands, which has gone towards the salaries, the rent, the computers. You see? So this means the business is not just running a business for the sake of selling bread whereby they can't afford to pay their customers. So again, back to the lockdown example, you see that when you buy this loaf of bread, you are contributing towards salaries of people. You are contributing towards their rent. You are contributing towards their computers. What this means, once again, is during this period, for the non-essential providers, there is no one buying their products or services. That means no one is actually contributing towards paying their salaries. No one is contributing towards paying their rent. That means at the end of the day, the people are really having a difficult time, and everyone is really having a difficult time in the country economically wise, because they're incurring costs, fixed costs that they need to pay. The owner of this business still needs to pay the salaries. They still need to pay the rent. But no one is buying the bread because they are not making the bread. So they are in big trouble. That is why you might find that at the end of this, a lot of businesses are likely to shut down because they couldn't cope with the stress right now. Then, I don't know, COVID, do you still have time? Okay,
Teacher,
I'll
we've got
continue.
about 7 minutes left.
Okay, 7 minutes is quite a lot.
100%.
All right, so we will cover a bit of selling price today and we'll continue the rest of it tomorrow. We've worked out the cost price, né? I hope you understand the cost price. All the costs that goes towards making a product. Those were the cost price, where you include the salaries, everything, the running cost, equipment, everything there in the cost price is included. Now it comes to the selling price. The selling price of goods and services is usually calculated so that it covers the total cost price of the goods or services and also makes a profit for the business. So selling price calculation includes what? It includes the cost price. It also includes the profit. With cost price, it included the production cost and fixed cost. But selling price now is the total cost price you have calculated plus profit, or the profit would be the markup. This is the added amount you would add to your cost price to make profit, so that you enjoy running the business and you benefit from running the business. An appropriate selling price is one that covers costs, it makes profit for the business, and is affordable for customers. So once again, proper planning. You need to plan and understand so that you make sure that this selling price you choose, it covers the costs. It also makes profit for the business. And over and above that, it is affordable for customers. So we've worked out the cost of bread in the previous slide, where we said that one loaf would cost about 4.57 cents. Ne? Yeah, it's 4.57 cents. You have that cost price. You can't suddenly just add a profit of 10 rands and think people would buy bread for about 15 rands. Ne? This is an old example. I think if it was recent costs, the cost price for that loaf wouldn't even be 4.57. In this day and age, we buy bread for about 15 rands. So you can imagine the costs that go into that. You can't be selling a t-shirt where you buy a cost of getting those t-shirts, of sewing those t-shirts, cost you only about 100 rand, and you want to sell the t-shirt for 500 rand. Do you understand that if you top up the profit, the profit so much and make it unaffordable for customers, then they will not pay and your business will still run at a loss, because at the end of the day, you are still depending on the people to come buy your products or services for your business to be successful. So you can even work out all your costs properly, you work out all your calculations properly to the T. But if you are not offering a service that people actually want or need, then you will run at a loss, because people won't buy that product, they won't buy that service. If you did EMS at some point in your life, so you understand the demand and supply, ne? So that's what it explains. If you offer a service that is not needed, you will not make any profit and your business will just die down, because people won't even support it enough for you to cover the costs. Look at things that are happening now. The one thing that is selling so much right now would be sanitizers, their masks, their gloves, all of those things. Right now, they're in high demand. So that means they could set those cost price and they set the profits, and people would buy them regardless of what happens, because it is a need right now, it is in demand right now. So those businesses selling those things are likely to make so much profit during this time. But if businesses are selling alcohol right now or cigarettes, they are shut down and they can't sell, unfortunately, for this period. So they won't be able to cover their costs and they won't be able to make any profit during this time. So selling price is what? It is the total cost price plus profit, and you get your selling price. Now, Kobe, are there any questions? I'm checking questions. If there are no questions, then I will.
No questions at this point.
Okay, Lisedi had asked that I go back to that activity. Which activity, Lisedi? Can you type in quickly? I'm not sure which activity you're referring to. Let me try and scroll back. Can you still see, Kobe? I think I closed them.
Teacher, let's just give him another 10 seconds or so due to the delay and see if he answers. And then if there's no answer coming through, then you can end your session. But let's give it a couple of seconds again.
Okay, I'm trying to. Can you still see my screen, Kobe?
Yes, everything is still fine.
Yeah. Okay, let me try go back to the activity. Maybe she will come.
Teacher, he's referring to the one with the bread.
Oh, the one with the bread. This one, ne? I think it's this one. Okay, to clarify, Lisedi just asked. Here we were calculating the total cost price. But firstly, before you work out the total cost price, remember the formula for total cost price is the production cost plus the fixed cost. So the information given here is what? We have we're given the budget of the big bakery, which includes 110,000 rands in fixed costs. So the fixed costs for this bakery are 110,000 rands for the year. These fixed costs include what? They include the salaries for the people working at this bakery. They include the rent. They include the computers, probably include other furniture or everything else, utensils that they use in this business. So all of that would cost the business 110,000 rands for the year. Then the production cost of each loaf of bread is 2 rand 45 cents. What do we need to do here? We need to work out the fixed cost of the bread, of one bread. We need to break it down to one unit so that we are able to work out the total cost price of 1 unit of bread, or this one loaf. So we will take what? This 110,000 rands of fixed costs divided by 52,000. Why 52? The baker has estimated that it will sell 52,000 loaves of bread in the coming year. That's why we are dividing by 52,000. Then it is equal to 2 rand 12 cents. So the fixed cost of one loaf of bread is 2 rand 12 cents. But the question wanted what? To calculate the total cost price. So we need to add the 2 rand 12 cents of the fixed cost plus the 2 rand 45 cents of the production cost. Then total cost price would be 4 rand 57 cents, because it is the 2 rand 45 production cost plus 2 rand 12 cents for the fixed cost. That is why at the end of the day, 4 rand 57 cents is the cost price for one loaf of bread. Because they had estimated to sell 52,000 loaves in 1 year, it means by the time they have sold 52,000 loaves, so let's say this 4 rand 57 multiplied by the 52,000, a portion of that money is able to cover the fixed costs of the business. That's why I said it means when you go buy the loaf of bread, this one loaf of bread, you might only be spending 4 rand 57 cents, but you are contributing to paying the people's salaries there. You are contributing to paying their rent. You are contributing to paying for their computers. You're contributing to paying for their running costs overall with just that one loaf. It's just a small contribution, but because they've done their calculations, it will eventually cover all their costs. I hope that is clear now to Lisedi and everyone else. We have run out of time, but yeah, thank you so much for engaging. Once again, if you have any more questions after this, you're welcome to email me.
Okay, teacher, you can go to your end slides because we are out of time.
Okay. We don't need to go to my end slides.
If you don't want to, that's fine. If you want to close the session here, that's fine.
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll continue on the selling price and do more examples of that. And then Friday will be break-even analysis. Thank you so much for attending and listening and engaging. Bye.